You know, what can you say about the Pink Panther Strikes Again? Not to sound weird, but this was kind of a family movie. I know a lot of young parents brought their children to the movie and they laughed their heads off. I saw it at the Capitol Theater in Dalhousie, and we didn't stop laughing from the early moments to the end moments, especially the inspector's battle with Kato, the Victor Victoria scene with the cross-dressing singer. The basic plot of it is Inspector Clouseau returns in the fifth installment of the Pink Panther series, and the world's chief assassins are gathering to try to kill him. Now, after 3 years confinement in a psych hospital, former Chief Inspector of Sûreté Charles Dreyfus has recovered his sanity, has been cured of his deception for killing Clouseau, who has replaced Dreyfus as Chief Inspector. Dreyfus is elated when informed by psychiatrists that he's appeared before the Sanity Board that afternoon, pending a release. Clouseau arrives unannounced to speak on behalf of his former boss, probably subjects Dreyfus to a series of mishaps, and within 5 minutes manages to drive him insane again. Now, he later escapes from the hospital and again attempts to kill Clouseau by planting a bomb in his apartment block, while the chief inspector, by periodic arrangement, duels with his manservant Kato. So basically, the plot is he tells Kato to attack him in any way possible as part of a training episode. Now, although the bomb destroys Clouseau's apartment and injures Kato, Clouseau, as usual, managed to escape uninjured. And the slow motion effects, one of the best actually comedic battle scenes in history, has to be seen to believe. This is why he did so good at the box office. It only cost $5 million to make, or $6 million, made $75 million at the box office. Now, deciding that a more elaborate plan is needed to eliminate Clouseau, he enlists the help of several career criminals and abducts Professor Hugo Fassbender, a renowned nuclear physicist, and his daughter Margot. Dreyfus forces Fassbender to build a doomsday weapon in exchange for their freedom. Now, when Clouseau travels to Britain to await Scotland Yard in the investigation of the kidnapping, now while in the Fassbender home, Clouseau wreaks havoc while attempting to interrogate the domestic staff, including Jarvis, Fassbender's cross-dressing butler. After Jarvis is killed by the kidnappers, to whom he had become a dangerous witness, Clouseau discovers a clue that leads him to Oktoberfest in Munich. Meanwhile, Dreyfus appears on worldwide television, warning of a possible Holocaust, and as a demonstration of his incredible power he possesses, the United Nations building in New York City will vanish from the face of the earth. 1 week later, the UN building is disintegrated using Fassbender's doomsday weapon, and Dreyfus threatens to destroy an entire city unless Clouseau was eliminated. In response, several nations ordered their operatives in Munich to assassinate Clouseau in hopes of gaining his favor and possibly Fassbender's invention. As a result of their orders and Clouseau's oblivious ineptitude, all the assassins kill each other until the only agents from the Soviet Union and Egypt remain, and Omar Sharif plays the one from Egypt. Now, one of Dreyfus' henchmen, disguised as Clouseau, is killed by the Egyptian assassin as being mistaken for him. The Egyptian is eventually seduced by the Russian operative Olga Beresova, who makes the same mistakes and falls in love with him. After the Egyptian hitman departs, the real Clouseau returns to his hotel room. He's surprised to find Olga in his bed and is perplexed by her affections. With her help, Clouseau ascertains that Dreyfus is hiding out in a castle in Bavaria and immediately goes there. After his arrival, Clouseau's initial attempts to sneak into the castle are foiled by his usual ineptitude. Dreyfus, meanwhile, is suffering from toothache, but is elated at the erroneous report of Clouseau's demise. After learning that a dentist is needed at the castle, Clouseau disguises himself as an elderly German dentist and finally gains entry to the castle. Unrecognized by Dreyfus, Clouseau intoxicates both of them with nitrous oxide. While both are laughing uncontrollably, Clouseau mistakenly pulls the wrong tooth, and Dreyfus immediately deduces that the inept dentist is Clouseau in disguise. Clouseau eventually escapes, and eventual Dreyfus prepares to use the machine to destroy Britain. Clouseau, eluding Dreyfus' henchmen, unwittingly foils Dreyfus' plans when a medieval catapult outside the castle launches him atop the doomsday machine, causing it to malfunction and fire on Dreyfus and the castle. As the occupants of the disintegrating castle, including Fassbender, Margot, and Clouseau, escape, Dreyfus plays Tiptoe Through the Tulips on the castle's pipe organ before he and the castle vanish into thin air. Returning to Paris, Clouseau finds Olga waiting for him in his bed. However, their tryst is interrupted first by Clouseau's apparent inability to remove his clothes, and then by Cato's latest surprise attack, which causes all three to be hurled in a river Seine, when their reclining bed snaps back upright and crashes through the wall. Immediately thereafter, a cartoon image of Clouseau emerges from the water, unaware that a gigantic version of the Pink Panther character is waiting below him, a reference to the recent film Jaws. The animated Clouseau chases the Pink Panther up the Seine. Now, the episode is pretty weird. The assassination of the cross-dresser, the claws on the chalkboard scene. Does your dog bite? No, and the dog bites him. That's not my dog. That's considered one of the greatest lines of all time. Now, Julie Andrews, the wife of director Blake Andrews, provided a singing voice of the female impersonator Ainsley Jarvis. And that's a weird scene. Has to be seen to be believed. The scene is for the nightclub when Jarvis sings in many ways similar to scenes in Edwards' later film Victor Victoria, in which Andrews plays a woman pretending to be a man who's a female impersonator. Now, Graham Stark, a longtime friend of Sellers, again plays That Is Not My Dog, like what he called the desk worker. Now, there was scenes featuring Harvey Corbett as Professor Auguste Balls and Marnie Maitland as a deputy commissioner. Lasorda was the leader from the film, but were later seen in the trailer for the Pink Panther in '82. Stark would eventually assume the role of Professor Balls in the next film, Revenge of the Pink Panther in '78. Now, Omar Sharif appears uncredited as the Egyptian assassin, and ironically, the movie was Oscar nominated for the Henry Mancini song "Come to Me," sung by, of all people, Tom Jones. Now, Maud Adams had filmed a few scenes of Soviet assassin Olga, but was fired after she refused to appear nude. She was replaced by Leslie Ann Down, and the completed scenes with Adams were reshot. Edwards had intended to replace Adams with Nicola Paget after seeing her at Upstairs Downstairs, but instead hired Down, and Paget's castmate. Now, Dick Crockett played the Gerald Ford lookalike based on the then current U.S. President Gerald Ford, and it was a lookalike for Henry Kissinger. Now, after the return of Pink Panther turned out to be a surprise hit, The Pink Panther Strikes Again was rushed into production. Blake Edwards had adapted one of the two scripts that he and Frank Waldman had written for a proposed Pink Panther TV series as the basis for that film, and he adapted the other as a starting point for The Pink Panther Strikes Again. Now, the plot does not concern the famous Pink Panther Diamond of previous films, but is played more as a James Bond parody. Now, the film was in production for nearly 10 months, with principal photography taking place between February and 4th of July, '76. The film was filmed in London, Shepperton Studios in Surrey, Munich, and Paris. Now, the production saw the construction of a full-scale replica of the White House Oval Office at Shepperton Studios, while the Doomsday Machine was designed by engineers from Sony. Now, the strained relationship between Sellers and Edwards had further deteriorated by the time production of The Pink Panther Strikes Again was underway. Sellers was ailing both mentally and physically, and Edwards later commented on the actor's mental state during production of the film. If you went to asylum, you described the first inmate you saw. That was what Peter had become. He was certifiable. Now, the original cut was 23 minutes longer than the intended movie. Edwards originally conceived The Pink Panther as an even longer 3-hour epic, zany chase film in a similar vein to the early comedy The Great Race, but the longer version was vetoed by United Artists, and the film was kept in a more conventional length. The excised footage was later used in the trail of The Pink Panther, or trial, excuse me. This can be confirmed by the film's novelization, which, aside some minor differences, includes all the deleted scenes that were used in the trial, three of which, via minor voice dubbing, had different dialogue than what appeared in the movie. Now, the trial of the Pink Panther was, again, a very interesting situation, because Joanne Lumley, Herbert Loam, David Niven, Robert Loggia, and Capucine also reprised a role from the first movie. Now, the Capucine actress, now she was considered probably the most important a French model of her area, a gorgeous woman. And there was also rumors she was transgender, which makes absolutely no sense. But that's what was going on. Now again, to certain people, the transgender rumors came in because, according to the book Hollywood Lesbians, she preferred the company of women. Now, the idea of the Pink Panther strikes again. The way they set it up again, it was more like for a youth audience, and it makes no sense. I don't remember. Yes, there's some James Bond type killings, but I mean, a 7-year-old kid's going to love this movie. A lot of slapstick, especially the opening scene with Cato and Clouseau. And how much was ad-libbed, we don't know. But when we watch it at the theaters, we were laughing about 5-10 minutes after the scene, and basically we lost a little bit of the plot. So watch carefully after the battle. You'll see exactly, should be a plot point, because Cato lets his guard down when he answers the phone. But the famous scene where they're in a room and they're turning around and they can't see each other, is very Marx Brothers. Anyway, if the Marx Brothers are ever going to make a Pink Panther movie, it would be this movie. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Blake Edwards tributes, let us know in the like, comment, subscribe, or share.